The presidency of Jon Adams, 1797 to 1801. He had a contentious beginning. Political parties had developed into powerful forces in the states. States controlled electoral college. Electors cast 2 votes each for the president. The Federalist Party elected Jon Adams. The Democratic Republicans elected Thomas Jefferson, or I should say nominated Thomas Jefferson. Alexander Hamilton tries to get Pinckney elected by getting Southerners to make him their second choice vote. Adams wins the Electoral College anyway, but only by 3 votes. So the next highest vote was Democratic Republican Thomas Jefferson. See any problems? They were from different parties, and this is just to give you an idea what that might be like, because Donald Trump won the Electoral College and then Hillary Clinton came in second. How would they have gotten along? And the answer is they would not have gotten along. On this week's episode of Desperate Founding Fathers, the Constitution says 2 candidates with the most votes become president and vice president. So President Adams and Vice President Jefferson are from different political parties. This will change by the 12th Amendment in 1804. Any predictions? And there's Jon Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Signs of hope. It almost works at first. Adams and Jefferson have a lot of mutual respect from Revolutionary War days. Adams states support for Republican government. He has respect for the French. Offers Madison a high position as envoy to France. And remember now that during this time there was the French Revolution. It started in 1789 and went to 1799. Also at this time, France and Great Britain are at war. Then during this time, there was the Jay Treaty, and the treaty went into effect November 19, 1794. So this was before Adams was president. Britain had violated the American neutrality in 1794 when the Royal Navy seized American ships in the West Indies, that's down in the Caribbean, during England's war with France. So the Jay Treaty was negotiated between the Supreme Court Justice John Jay and George III. The Jay Treaty, Jefferson, Madison, and other opponents feared the treaty gave too many concessions to the British. They argued that Jay's negotiation actually weakened American trade rights and complained that it committed the U.S. to paying pre-revolutionary debts, and the United States did not have the money. Washington himself was not completely satisfied with the treaty, but considered preventing another war with the former colonial master a priority. American merchant ships were being seized by French warships, particularly down in the Mediterranean. The French were not happy with the Jay's Treaty because they wanted to be foremost trade partner with the United States against Britain. So Adams sent delegates to France to negotiate, and then began something called the XYZ Affair. French ministers, X, Y, and Z, requested bribes in order to enter into the negotiations, which is kind of common in Europe. Fallout from the XYZ Affair. Many Americans called for war with France because of the bribe. Hamilton and others thought the U.S. could gain land by going to war with France. And by this time, France owned and occupied the lands west of the Mississippi. Hamilton and others thought that they could gain land, but he also said, the Americans said, millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute. Adams feels that the U.S. Army and Navy are not strong enough to fight a major power, so he sends new ministers back to France instead. It was an unpopular move, but The Federalists do take control. Public anger with France strengthens the Federalists in Congress because the Federalists basically favor Britain over France. They win the majority of both houses in 1798, and they enact laws that were restrictive to Democratic Republican rivals. The Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798. These are enacted by President Adams. The Alien and Sedition Acts were a series of 4 laws passed by the U.S. government in 1798 amid widespread fear that war with France was imminent. The 4 laws, which remain controversial to this day, restricted the activities of foreign residents in the country and limited freedom of speech and of the press. The Alien Acts, what did it do? It authorized the president to deport any aliens considered to be dangerous, so he could deport a Frenchman. It authorized the president to detain any enemy aliens in time of war. Now, why would this favor the Federalists? Well, the Democratic Republicans were sympathetic to the French Revolution. The Sedition Act, what did it do? It makes it illegal for newspapers to criticize the president or Congress. It imposes heavy penalties for editors who violated the new law, including fines and imprisonment. Who do you think this would favor? Of course, the Federalists. Responses to the Alien and Sedition Acts. Republicans say that it violates the First Amendment rights, which I would agree. Judicial review was not yet established, so no Supreme Court cases. I think you've heard the word sedition recently in the news, and you might want to compare the Sedition Act to what you've been hearing. Kentucky and the Virginia resolutions, written respectively by Jefferson and Madison. It argues that states had enrolled into the compact, the Constitution, they can nullify a federal law that breaks the agreement. They tried to get the other state legislatures to enact nullification laws, and they did not. I mean, if they had done something like this is going to go back to the Articles of Confederation and the right for the states to make their own decisions, which will weaken the power of centralized government. The crisis fades. Federalists, due to the unpopularity of these laws, lose their majority in the election of 1800. Republicans allow the Alien and Sedition Acts to expire or repeal parts of them. Under John Marshall, the Supreme Court will establish a role as the last resort in determining if a law is constitutional. News of a new peace with France doesn't make it to the U.S. until after the election. Judging Adams. Dislike for the federal Congress and the Alien and Sedition Acts cost Adams his re-election and gave control of the Congress to the Democratic Republicans. But in weighing his presidency, we have to consider the negative along with the positive. Relationship with France is damaged, and actually the U.S. tried to get out of paying back their debt to France because they said it was made with Louis XVI, who was killed in the French Revolution, and not the current power in France, like Robespierre and his gang. New taxes were imposed. Party politics became entrenched. Boy, that sounds familiar. Keeps U.S. out of war on the positive side. Preserves neutrality. It strengthened the Navy and made for a peaceful transfer of power. Something that really didn't happen in our country recently. Also, Trump tried to impose Sedition Act because of the negative press he was receiving. Was that popular? Again, I would say no.